Zara's purple fingers trembled as she adjusted the translation device on her collar. The massive space station buzzed with activity around her, hundreds of different alien species moving through the corridors like a living rainbow. She had never seen so many different beings in one place before. Her home planet of Zelther had been isolated for centuries, and this was her first time among the galactic community. The young Zelthorian woman stood barely 4 feet tall, with delicate lavender skin and large silver eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Her people were known throughout the galaxy as brilliant scientists and engineers, but they were also known for something else, their physical weakness. A single punch from most species could seriously injure a Zelthorian, and everyone knew it. "Move along, little flower," growled a massive Krogan merchant, his red scales gleaming under the station lights. "This isn't a place for your kind to wander alone." Zara clutched her research tablet closer to her chest and hurried past him. She was here on official business from the Zelthorian Science Council, sent to present their latest breakthrough in quantum energy manipulation. It was supposed to be a great honor, but right now she just felt scared and alone. The corridor ahead split into 3 directions, and Zara realized she was lost. The station was enormous, easily 10 times larger than the biggest city on her homeworld. She looked around desperately for someone who might help her, but most of the aliens she saw either ignored her completely or looked at her with expressions that made her nervous. "Excuse me," she said softly to a passing Voltherian diplomat. The tall, blue-skinned alien looked down at her with cold yellow eyes. "What does a Zelthorian want with me?" the diplomat asked, his voice dripping with disdain. "Shouldn't you be hiding in some laboratory somewhere?" Before Zara could respond, a group of Skarn pirates emerged from a side corridor. The reptilian warriors were known throughout the galaxy for their brutality and their particular hatred of peaceful species like the Zelthorians. Their leader, a massive brute with scarred green scales and cybernetic arms, spotted Zara immediately. Well, he hissed, his forked tongue flicking out to taste the air. "What do we have here?" A little Zelthorian, all alone and far from home. The other pirates surrounded Zara, their weapons visible but not yet drawn. The Voltherian diplomat quickly moved away, clearly not wanting to get involved. Other aliens in the corridor did the same, creating a wide, empty space around the confrontation. "Please," Zara whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm just trying to find the conference center. I don't want any trouble." The Skarn leader laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Oh, but trouble has found you, little flower. My friends and I've been having a very expensive day, and we need someone to help us feel better about our losses." One of the smaller pirates reached out to grab Zara's research tablet. "What's this? Secret Zelthorian technology? This could be worth something." Zara tried to pull the tablet away, but the pirate was much stronger. The device slipped for a grasp and clattered to the floor. The screen cracked, and months of her work flickered and died. Tears began to form in her silver eyes. "Look at that," sneered another pirate. "The little alien is crying. How pathetic." The leader stepped closer, his cybernetic arms whirring softly. "Your people have such soft bones, don't they? I wonder how many I could break before you stop moving." Zara backed against the corridor wall, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. She had always known that Zelthorians were vulnerable in the galaxy, but she had never imagined it would be like this. The pirates were clearly enjoying her fear, taking their time before they struck. "Help!" she whispered, knowing that no one would come. The other aliens in the corridor continued to ignore what was happening, some even stopping to watch as if it were entertainment. The Skarn leader raised one of his cybernetic fists, the metal gleaming under the lights. "Don't worry, little one. This will hurt you much more than it hurts me." Just as the blow was about to fall, a new voice cut through the air like a blade. "Hey!" The word was spoken softly, but something in the tone made everyone freeze. The pirates turned to see a human male walking toward them. He was tall, but not exceptionally so, with brown hair and steady green eyes. His clothing was simple, dark pants, a plain shirt, and a worn leather jacket. He didn't look particularly threatening, certainly not compared to the armored Skarn warriors. "Walk away," the human said, his voice calm, but carrying an edge that made Zara shiver. "All of you, right now." The pirate leader burst into laughter. "A human. Oh, this is rich. One soft little mammal thinks he can tell us what to do. The human took another step forward, his hands empty and relaxed at his sides. I'm not going to ask again. You're not asking anything, monkey, snarled one of the other pirates. You're about to learn what happens when humans stick their noses where they don't belong. But Zara was watching the human's face, and something about it seemed familiar. There was a calmness there, a steady confidence that reminded her of something from long ago. His eyes met hers for just a moment, and she saw something in them that made her breath catch. Kindness. The same kindness she had seen once before, in another place, at another time, when the world was burning around her and death was everywhere. 20 years ago, when she was just a child, and her world was ending. The memory hit her like a physical blow, and suddenly she knew exactly who this human was. Marcus Chun, the human warrior who had saved her life. The recognition hit Zara like a starship engine firing at full thrust. 20 years melted away in an instant, and she was 6 years old again, hiding in the rubble of her family's home while the Skarn invasion force burned everything she had ever known. She remembered the sound of her parents screaming, the smell of smoke and blood, the terrible silence that followed the explosions. And then, when she thought she was going to die alone in that collapsed building, a human soldier had appeared like something out of a dream. Marcus Chun. Even then, his name had been spoken with reverence by the few Zelthorian survivors. The human who had volunteered for the most dangerous missions. The one who had saved more Zelthorian civilians than anyone else in the entire rescue operation. Now here he was, standing between her and death once again. The Skarn pirates clearly didn't understand what they were dealing with. The leader stepped forward, his cybernetic arms flexing menacingly. Last chance to walk away, human. We outnumber you 5-1. Marcus didn't move. His stance remained relaxed, almost casual. Numbers don't mean much when you're fighting children. Children. The pirate leader's voice rose in outrage. We are Skarn warriors. We have conquered a dozen worlds. You attack scientists and civilians, Marcus replied calmly. That makes you children. Dangerous, stupid children who never learned how to pick on someone their own size. The insult struck home. The Skarn leader's eyes blazed with fury, and he lunged forward with a roar that echoed through the corridor. His cybernetic fist shot out like a piston, fast enough to crush stone. Marcus moved. Zara had forgotten how humans could move when they needed to. Her people were brilliant, but they were slow and fragile. Most alien species were stronger than humans, but very few were faster. Marcus shifted his weight slightly, and the massive cybernetic fist whistled past his head by mere inches. His own fist came up in a smooth, economical motion and connected with the pirate leader's throat. There was a wet, choking sound, and the massive Skarn stumbled backward, gasping for air. The other 4 pirates attacked at once, thinking they could overwhelm him with numbers. They had clearly never fought a human before. Marcus ducked under the first pirate's swing and drove his elbow into the alien's solar plexus. The Skarn doubled over, wheezing. Without pausing, Marcus spun and caught the second pirate's wrist as it descended, twisted sharply, and sent the warrior crashing into the corridor wall. The third pirate tried to tackle him, but Marcus sidestepped and used the alien's momentum against him, sending him tumbling across the floor. The fourth pirate had drawn a blade, but Marcus was already inside his guard, one hand controlling the weapon while the other delivered a precise strike to a nerve cluster on the alien's neck. The pirate collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. The entire fight had taken less than 10 seconds. The pirate leader, still gasping and clutching his throat, stared at Marcus with newfound respect and fear. Around the corridor, other aliens had stopped to watch, their expressions ranging from amazement to terror. Impossible, wheezed the leader. Humans are supposed to be weak. Marcus picked up Zara's broken tablet and examined it with careful hands. Humans are weak, he said without looking up. That's why we had to get creative. He turned to face the pirates again, and his voice took on a colder edge. You have 30 seconds to disappear before I decide you're still a threat to the lady. The pirates didn't need to be told twice. They gathered their unconscious companions and fled down the corridor, the leader casting fearful glances back over his shoulder until they rounded a corner and vanished. The other aliens in the corridor quickly dispersed as well, clearly not wanting to be associated with what had just happened. Within moments, Zara and Marcus were alone. Marcus knelt down and gently placed the broken tablet in Zara's hands. I'm sorry about this. Is the data backed up somewhere? Zara stared at him, unable to speak. He was older now, with lines around his eyes and gray threads in his hair, but it was definitely him. The same steady hands that had pulled her from the rubble. The same calm voice that had told her everything would be all right. You, she whispered finally. You're Marcus Chun. Marcus looked up sharply, his eyes studying her face. For a moment, confusion flickered across his features. Then, understanding dawned, and his expression softened. Zara, he said quietly. Little Zara from the Zelthorian rescue. You grew up. Tears were streaming down her face now, but she didn't care. I thought I would never see you again. I thought you were dead. Marcus stood slowly, his movements careful and controlled. Close enough to it a few times. What are you doing here? This station isn't exactly safe for Zelthorians. I'm a researcher now, Zara managed, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. Quantum energy specialist. I'm here to present our latest findings to the Galactic Science Council. Pride flickered across Marcus's face. That's incredible, Zara. Your parents would have been so proud. The mention of her parents brought fresh tears, but these were mixed with something else. Hope, perhaps. Or maybe just the overwhelming relief of being safe again. What about you? She asked. Are you still a soldier? Marcus's expression grew more guarded. Something like that. I work freelance now. Private security, mostly. Helping people who need help. Like me, Zara said softly. Like you, he agreed. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of years and memory settling between them. Finally, Marcus cleared his throat. Come on, he said. Let me walk you to the conference center. This place can be dangerous for someone traveling alone. As they walked through the corridors together, Zara felt safer than she had since leaving her homeworld. But she also sensed that Marcus was different now, changed by whatever he had experienced in the years since she had last seen him. There was something harder in his eyes, a wariness that hadn't been there before. She wanted to ask him about it, but she was afraid of what the answer might be. Instead, she simply walked beside him, grateful beyond words that the human warrior who had saved her as a child was here to protect her once again. The Galactic Science Council's conference center was a marvel of engineering, with crystalline walls that seemed to bend light itself and gravity generators that allowed beings from different worlds to move comfortably in the same space. Zara's presentation had gone better than she had dared hope. The council members, representing dozens of different species, have been fascinated by her work on quantum energy manipulation. But even as she answered their technical questions and demonstrated her equations, part of her mind kept drifting back to Marcus. He had waited outside during her presentation, and she could see him through the transparent walls, standing at attention like the soldier he had always been. When the session finally ended, Zara gathered her materials with shaking hands. Several council members had expressed interest in her research, and there was talk of funding for further development. It was everything she had worked for, but all she wanted was to spend more time with the human who had saved her life. Dr. Zura called Counselor Vex a tall, insectoid being from the hive worlds. Your work is most impressive. We would like to discuss implementation possibilities with you tomorrow. Zara bowed politely. Thank you, Counselor. I would be honored to continue our discussions. As the council members filed out, chattering in their various languages about the presentation, Marcus approached. His expression was carefully neutral, but Zara could see something troubled in his eyes. How did it go? He asked. Better than I expected, Zara replied. They want to meet again tomorrow to discuss funding and development. It could mean everything for my people's future. Marcus nodded, but his attention seemed focused on something else. Zara, I need to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. She looked at him with concern. What is it? Has anyone approached you about your research before today? Anyone who wasn't part of the official council? Zara frowned. No, I don't think so. What? Marcus was quiet for a moment, his eyes scanning the nearly empty conference center. I recognized one of those pirates from earlier. His name is Vask, and he doesn't usually bother with random muggings. He's a mercenary who works for people with very specific needs. A chill ran down Zara's spine. What kind of needs? The kind that pay well for advanced technology, Marcus said grimly. Quantum energy manipulation would be worth a fortune on the black market, especially if it could be weaponized. The full implications of what he was saying hit her like a physical blow. You think they were after my research specifically? That this wasn't just a random attack? I think you were targeted, Marcus confirmed. Which means they'll try again, and next time they'll be better prepared. Zara felt her knees go weak. She had been so focused on the scientific aspects of her work that she had never considered how it might be misused. Quantum energy manipulation could power cities and heal wounded planets, but in the wrong hands, it could also destroy them. What do I do? She whispered. Marcus's expression softened slightly. First, we get you somewhere safe. Then we figure out who's behind this and how to stop them. You saved my life once, Marcus said quietly. I'm not walking away now. Zara stared at him in confusion. I saved your life? Marcus, I was 6 years old. You saved me. A sad smile crossed Marcus's features. Zara, do you remember what you said to me that day? When I pulled you out of the rubble? She thought back, trying to recall details from that traumatic time. I was scared, crying. I don't remember much. You looked up at me with those big silver eyes, Marcus continued, and you said, thank you for helping me. I want to help people too when I grow up, just like you. The memory came flooding back, and Zara gasped. She had said that, clinging to his uniform while he carried her to safety. You were the first person to ever tell me that helping people was something worth doing, Marcus said. Before that day, I was just a soldier following orders. After that day, I knew what I wanted to be. Tears were streaming down Zara's face again. Marcus, you saved me in a different way, he said simply. You gave me purpose. Before either of them could say more, the lights in the conference center suddenly dimmed. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in a red glow that made the crystalline walls look like they were filled with blood. Lockdown protocol activated, announced a mechanical voice. All personnel remain in current positions until further notice. Marcus's hand went to something hidden beneath his jacket, and his entire demeanor changed. The gentleman who had been reminiscing about the past was gone, replaced by the alert, dangerous warrior who had faced down 5 Skarn pirates without breaking a sweat. This isn't a coincidence, he said, moving to position himself between Zara and the main entrance. Someone just triggered a station-wide lockdown. Could it be a legitimate emergency? Zara asked hopefully. Marcus shook his head. Not with timing this perfect. Someone wants us trapped in here. As if summoned by his words, figures began moving in the corridors outside the conference center. They were dressed in dark body armor and moving with military precision. Zara could see weapons in their hands. How many? She whispered. Marcus counted silently. At least a dozen. Probably more. Can we escape? Not through the main corridors, Marcus replied. But these old stations always have maintenance tunnels and service passages. The question is whether I can get us to one before they breach the center. A new sound echoed through the chamber, the high-pitched whine of cutting tools working on the main entrance. The attackers weren't wasting time. Marcus turned to Zara, his expression deadly serious. I need you to listen to me very carefully. When I tell you to move, you run for that service panel on the far wall. Don't look back. Don't hesitate, just run. Can you do that? Zara nodded, even though she was terrified. What about you? I'll be right behind you. Marcus lied, and they both knew it. The cutting tools stopped, and there was a moment of perfect silence. Then, the main entrance exploded inward in a shower of crystalline fragments. Armed figures poured through the breach, their weapons already raised and ready. They moved with the coordination of a professional military unit, not random pirates or criminals. The leader, a tall humanoid figure in elaborate armor, stepped forward and removed his helmet. Zara gasped when she saw his face. It was Counselor Thane, one of the beings who had praised her research just an hour earlier. Dr. Zara, Thane said, his voice carrying artificial warmth. I do apologize for the dramatic entrance, but I'm afraid we need to have a more private discussion about your remarkable work. Marcus stepped forward, his hands still empty, but his stance radiating menace. She's not going anywhere with you. Thane's eyes shifted to Marcus, and his expression grew cold. Ah yes, the human. I was hoping you would be reasonable about this, Mr. Chun. Your reputation suggests you're a practical man. My reputation should also suggest that threatening people under my protection is a very bad idea, Marcus replied. Thane smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Indeed, which is why I brought sufficient firepower to deal with even someone of your considerable skills." The armed figures raised their weapons in unison, and Zara realized with growing horror that there was nowhere to run. They were surrounded, outgunned, and trapped in a room with no escape routes. But Marcus just smiled, and there was something in that expression that made even the heavily armed soldiers take a step back. "You know," he said conversationally, "there's something you should understand about humans." "And what's that?" Thane asked. "We're really good at making the impossible look easy." Marcus reached into his jacket and withdrew what looked like a simple metal cylinder about the size of a pen. The armed soldiers tensed, but Thane just laughed. "What are you going to do with that, Mr. Chun?" "Write us a strongly worded letter." "Something like that," Marcus replied, and pressed a button on the cylinder. The device let out a high-pitched whine that made everyone in the room wince. Then the lights went out completely, plunging the conference center into absolute darkness. "Emergency power failure," the mechanical voice announced. "Switching to backup systems. Please remain calm." In the darkness, chaos erupted. Zara heard shouts of confusion, the sound of armored figures stumbling into each other, and Thane's voice screaming orders that no one could follow in the pitch black. A warm hand found hers in the darkness. "Move," Marcus whispered in her ear. They ran through the confusion, Marcus somehow navigating the darkened chamber with perfect confidence. Behind them, emergency lighting began to flicker on, casting weird shadows that only added to the chaos. "There!" Thane's voice roared. "The service panel. Don't let them escape." Weapons fire erupted in the chamber, but Marcus was already at the wall panel, his fingers working by touch alone. The panel slid open to reveal a narrow maintenance tunnel, barely wide enough for a person crawl through. "In," Marcus ordered, pushing Zara toward the opening. She squeezed into the tunnel and began crawling as fast as she could. Behind her, she could hear Marcus following, and behind him, the sound of pursuit. The tunnel was cramped and uncomfortable, but it angled upward, taking them away from the conference center. After what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, they emerged into a larger maintenance corridor lined with pipes and conduits. Emergency lighting strips cast everything in a red glow that reminded Zara uncomfortably of blood. "This way," Marcus said, leading her deeper into the station's infrastructure. "How do you know where we're going?" Zara asked, struggling to keep up with his pace. "I studied the station schematics before I came aboard," Marcus replied. "Old habit." They moved through a maze of service corridors and maintenance areas, the sounds of pursuit gradually fading behind them. Eventually, Marcus stopped at what looked like just another section of wall. "Emergency shelter," he explained, pressing his palm against a hidden scanner. The wall slid aside to reveal a small but comfortable room equipped with basic supplies and communications equipment. "How did you know about this?" Zara asked. Marcus's expression was grim. "Because I helped design the security for this station 5 years ago. I know all the hidden rooms and emergency protocols." Zara sank into a chair, the full weight of what had just happened finally hitting her. "They knew exactly where to find us. They had a detailed plan, military equipment, and Counselor Thane was working with them. This isn't just about stealing technology, is it?" "No," Marcus confirmed, activating the room's communication system. "This is something much bigger." The main screen flickered to life, showing a secure communication channel. A moment later, a familiar face appeared, Admiral Sarah Hayes, one of the highest-ranking officers in the Human Defense Corps. "Marcus," the Admiral said without preamble, "we've been monitoring the situation. Are you and Dr. Zara secure?" "For the moment," Marcus replied. "But we need extraction, and we need answers." Admiral Hayes nodded. "The answers first. Dr. Zara's research has attracted attention from the Dominion." Zara felt her blood turn to ice. The Dominion was a coalition of aggressive species that had been expanding their territory through conquest and intimidation for decades. They were everything the Galactic Council stood against. "They want to weaponize quantum energy manipulation," the Admiral continued. "Our intelligence suggests they've been infiltrating the Council for months, placing operatives in key positions. Counselor Thane is just the tip of the iceberg." "How bad is it?" Marcus asked. "Bad enough that we've activated the Omega Protocol," Admiral Hayes replied grimly. Marcus went completely still. "Omega Protocol?" That's for existential threats to human space. The Dominion with quantum weapons would be exactly that, the Admiral said. Dr. Zara's research could tip the balance of power in the galaxy. In the right hands, it could bring peace and prosperity to billions of worlds. In the wrong hands, it could destroy everything, Zara whispered. The Admiral nodded. Which is why we need you both to disappear immediately. Dr. Zara, your work is too valuable to fall into Dominion hands. And Marcus, you're now the only person she trusts completely. Where would we go? Zara asked. They found us here on one of the most secure stations in the galaxy. We have a safe house, Admiral Hayes replied. A place where even the Dominion can't reach you. But getting there will be dangerous. Marcus studied the tactical display that appeared on the screen, showing the station layout and the positions of hostile forces. They've sealed all the docking bays and blocked the main transport routes. How many people are we talking about? Intelligence estimates at least 50 Dominion operatives on the station, the Admiral said, plus corrupted Council security forces and hired mercenaries. They've essentially taken control of the entire facility. 50 against 2? Marcus mused. I've had worse odds. Marcus, Zara said quietly, you can't fight 50 people. You're not invincible. He turned to look at her, and she saw something in his eyes that she had never seen before. Uncertainty. No, he said finally. I'm not. But I don't have to fight all of them. I just have to get you out of here alive. Admiral Hayes leaned forward on the screen. There is one possibility. The station has an emergency evacuation system. Escape pods designed to get essential personnel off the station in case of catastrophic failure. If you could reach Pod Bay 7. That's on the other side of the station, Marcus said. Through the main commercial district. It'll be crawling with hostiles. It's also the one place they won't expect you to go, the Admiral pointed out. Every other escape route takes you through maintenance areas and service corridors. They'll be watching all of those. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, studying the tactical display. Finally, he nodded. We'll need a distraction, he said. Something big enough to pull their attention away from the pod bays. A slow smile crossed Admiral Hayes' face. Already in motion. In exactly 30 minutes, a Human Defense Corps battlecruiser will arrive in system and begin demanding explanations for the station lockdown. That should draw most of their forces to the command center. 30 minutes, Marcus repeated. That's our window. He turned to Zara, his expression serious but not unkind. Are you ready for this? It's going to be dangerous, and I can't guarantee we'll make it. Zara thought about her parents, dead 20 years now. She thought about her people, brilliant but fragile, depending on her research to secure their future in the galaxy. She thought about all the worlds that could benefit from quantum energy technology, and all the worlds that could be destroyed if it fell into the wrong hands. Most of all, she thought about the human warrior who had saved her as a child, and who was now ready to risk his life for her again. I'm ready, she said, and meant it. Marcus nodded and began checking his equipment. Then, let's go save the galaxy. The commercial district of the space station was normally a bustling marketplace where traders from across the galaxy conducted business. Now it was a war zone. Emergency lights cast everything in harsh shadows, and the air was thick with smoke from weapons fire and explosions. Marcus moved through the chaos like a ghost, with Zara close behind him. They had discarded the maintenance tunnels in favor of hiding in plain sight among the crowds of panicked civilians trying to evacuate. Marcus had found them both civilian clothes and fake identification tags, transforming them from fugitives into just another pair of refugees fleeing the violence. Stay close, Marcus murmured as they pushed through a crowd of terrified Aldebarans. Don't make eye contact with anyone in uniform. Ahead of them, a group of Dominion soldiers was checking identification and searching civilians. Their leader, a massive Corvan warrior with cybernetic enhancements, was being particularly rough with anyone who looked like they might be carrying valuable information. Papers, the Corvan growled as they approached. His cybernetic eyes scanned them with mechanical precision. Marcus handed over their false documents with steady hands. Medical technicians, he said in a slightly different accent than his normal voice. We were working in the trauma center when the lockdown started. The Corvan studied the papers, then looked at Zara. You're Zelthorian. Yes, sir, Zara replied, trying to keep her voice steady. I specialize in neural trauma treatment. The soldier's cybernetic eye whirred as it focused on her. For a moment, Zara was certain they were discovered. Then, the Corvin handed back their papers with a grunt. Move along. Stay in designated evacuation areas. They walked away at a careful pace, neither too fast nor too slow. Behind them, Zara could hear the soldier continuing to process other refugees. That was close, she whispered once they were out of earshot. Too close, Marcus agreed. They're getting better at this. We need to move faster. They made their way through the commercial district, dodging patrols and keeping to the crowds whenever possible. Twice they had to take detours when their route was blocked by Dominion checkpoints, and once they narrowly avoided a squad of soldiers conducting a building-by-building search. The escape pod bay was located in the station's outer ring, accessible through a series of transport tubes that normally carried cargo and maintenance equipment. As they approached the final checkpoint before the pod bay entrance, Marcus suddenly stopped. Problem, he said quietly. Ahead of them, the entrance to the transport tube was heavily guarded. At least a dozen soldiers in full combat armor were checking everyone who passed through, and they had set up sophisticated scanning equipment that would certainly detect any weapons or false identification. We can't get past that, Zara said. Marcus studied the checkpoint for a moment, then looked around the commercial district. His gaze settled on something, and a slight smile crossed his face. Actually, we can, but you're not going to like it. Before Zara could ask what he meant, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The artificial gravity fluctuated, causing everyone to stumble, and the lights flickered ominously. Attention, all personnel, announced the station's emergency system. Unidentified military vessel detected. All security teams report to command immediately. The soldiers at the checkpoint looked confused. Several of them activated their communication devices, clearly receiving new orders. Within minutes, half the guards had left their posts and were heading toward the command center. There's our distraction, Marcus said. Admiral Hayes came through. But even with half the guards gone, the checkpoint was still heavily defended. Marcus led Zara to a nearby maintenance alcove and began explaining his plan. See that cargo transport? He pointed to a large, automated vehicle that was carrying supplies toward the pod bay. It uses the same transport tube we need, and it's shielded against sensors. Zara looked at the vehicle and immediately understood. You want us to hide inside the cargo containers. It's the only way past the checkpoint, Marcus confirmed. The transport is automated, so no one will be inside to discover us. What if we get caught? Marcus's expression grew serious. Then I'll handle it, and you keep going to the escape pod. Your research is more important than either of our lives. Before Zara could protest, Marcus was already moving. He approached the cargo transport from its blind side and quickly opened one of the containers. It was filled with medical supplies destined for the pod bay emergency systems. In, he whispered, helping Zara climb inside. Stay quiet no matter what happens. Marcus climbed in after her and carefully closed the container. They were pressed close together in the darkness, surrounded by boxes of medical equipment. The container smelled of antiseptic and metal, and Zara could feel Marcus's steady breathing beside her. The transport began to move, carrying them toward the checkpoint. Through the thin walls of the container, they could hear the guards conducting their inspections. Automated supply transport, designation Gamma 7, announced a mechanical voice. Medical supplies for emergency systems. Standard scan, came a bored human voice. Nothing unusual. Zara held her breath as scanning beams played over the container. She could feel the energy washing over them, and for a moment she was certain they would be discovered. But Marcus had been right about the shielding. The scan showed nothing more than medical supplies. Clear for passage, the guard announced. The transport continued through the checkpoint and into the tube system. For several minutes they traveled through the station's infrastructure, the container swaying gently as the transport navigated curves and elevation changes. Finally, the motion stopped. Pod Bay 7, announced the mechanical voice. Unloading medical supplies. Marcus carefully opened the container and peered outside. The pod bay was a vast chamber filled with small, single-person escape vehicles. Most of the bay was automated, with only a few technicians monitoring the systems. They climbed out of the container and made their way toward the nearest functional escape pod. Marcus began the launch sequence while Zara uploaded her research data to the pod's secure storage system. Zara, Marcus said quietly as the pod systems came online. I need you to know something. She looked at him with concern. What is it? This pod is designed for one person, he said. I'm not coming with you. Zara felt her world tilt. What? No, Marcus, we're doing this together. The safe house Admiral Hayes mentioned. It's a human defense corps facility, Marcus explained. They need you and your research, but they don't need me. And someone has to stay here to make sure you get away safely. I won't leave you, Zara said firmly. Not again. Not after 20 years. Marcus smiled sadly. You're not leaving me, Zara. You're doing what you were always meant to do, helping people. Your research could bring peace to the galaxy. That's worth more than one old soldier's life. Explosions echoed through the station as the Human Defense Corps battle cruiser engaged the Dominion forces. The pod base shook, and several escape pods automatically launched as the emergency systems activated. You have to go, Marcus said, helping her into the escape pod. Now, before they find us. Tears were streaming down Zara's face. I don't know how to thank you. For everything. For saving me when I was a child. For saving me again today. You don't need to thank me, Marcus replied. Just promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll use your research to help people. Promise me you'll make the galaxy a better place. I promise, Zara whispered. Marcus sealed the pod and initiated the launch sequence. Through the transparent canopy, Zara could see him moving to the bay's control console, preparing to override the security systems that would prevent her escape. The pod shot out into space, carrying her away from the station and toward the coordinates Admiral Hayes had provided. Behind her, the space station grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light against the stars. 3 days later, Zara sat in the research facility that would be her new home, working on equations that would revolutionize energy production across the galaxy. Her quantum manipulation technology would indeed bring peace and prosperity to countless worlds, just as Marcus had predicted. She never saw him again. But sometimes when she looked up at the stars, she remembered a 6-year-old girl crying in the rubble of a destroyed world, and the human warrior who had told her that helping people was the most important thing anyone could do. She had kept her promise to him. She always would. And somewhere in the galaxy, on worlds she would never visit, children grew up safe and happy because of the energy systems her research had made possible. They would never know about the human warrior who had died to protect the woman who gave them that gift. But Zara knew, and she made sure they had everything they needed to build a better future. It was, she thought, what Marcus would have wanted. The human warrior who had saved her as a child had saved the entire galaxy in the end. And she had recognized him instantly, just as he had always known she would grow up to do something wonderful. Some bonds, forged in childhood trauma and strengthened by shared purpose, truly could transcend time and space, even when they ended in sacrifice.